Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gavin Waddell from Change Plan, and today I am delighted to be joined by Friska Wirya, the CEO of Fresh by Friska. Friska has built an enormous following on LinkedIn of over 25,000 people, seems to have a voracious social media engagement strategy, and aside from that, seems to also certainly be amongst the most glamorous change management thinkers in the world. So welcome, Friska.
Thanks for having me, Gavin.
Now, Friska, when we see you on LinkedIn, it's always as though you're globetrotting, you're attending cocktail parties and events, you're launching books, you're all doing all sorts of glamorous and incredible things. I'd love you to just tell us the story of your journey thus far in change management.
All of those things are true, but what looks stylish and seamless on top is underpinned by a lot of hard work, grit, and dedication that spanned a number of years. So I first dived into change probably about a decade ago. And during that time, I've worked for the biggest names in mining, engineering, and tech. I cut my teeth in general management consulting. That's where I started after I did my MBA. I was in Los Angeles at the time. I came back to Australia, and it was only then change management started to be recognized as a discipline. And as luck would have it, I was really bored in management consulting. It just seemed like every project was the same. And change intrigued me because every day is different, every client's different, every culture, and hence every change. And so what works for company A is not going to work for company B. And that really feeds into my kind of analytical ability. So it played to all my strengths. And I wanted to try my hand at it because I thought I'd be really good at it because it played to all my strengths. I took a 40% pay cut and I started from nothing. I started as a change analyst, didn't have any qualifications. I think a year or two later, I did all the other accreditations, your ProSci, your PCI, Cotter. And ever since then, it's been learning from other disciplines that inform my change management practice. So since then, I've led changes of all shapes and sizes and all sorts of types. So restructures, mergers and acquisitions, digital transformations, culture change, and it's brought me all around the world. So it's been quite a ride.
Were you in-house as a management consultant in those different verticals that you were talking about, and then switched to also being in-house, or did you switch to working as a consultant as you switched into change?
I was as a consultant first, so I first cut my teeth at Fujitsu, so really one of the founding members of their digital consulting team. I hated it. I hated it, and really didn't believe in the you know lifetime career anymore, and I switched to contracting. After I switched to contracting, I never looked back, and after contracting, that's when I birthed Fresh by Friska. So November 2019, I decided I wanted to try creating something out of nothing because I didn't want to look back when I was 60 and wonder, you know what? What if I took a path less traveled?
Amazing. So the focus of today's conversation is to really think about building influence. And the reason we reached out to you is just because you seem to have an enormous presence and an enormous influence. I'm really eager to understand your perception of the role of personal branding, which you seem to do exceptionally well in
Mm.
managing change. And maybe that will involve sharing a little bit of the story about how you built your brand when you launched Fresh by Friska.
Sure. I guess I never understood. I was naive. I didn't realize the importance of cultivating a brand for yourself. I was very good at it when I was in house or when I was contracting because I knew as a change management professional, you usually don't have a carrot and you don't have a stick. You're trying to influence people a lot more senior, a lot more experienced than you are to be open to doing things a different way. And so you had to have the credibility, you had to have a good relationship, you had to make bang a really good first impression as soon as you walked into that room. And so all I did was liken my own business to that of a change management project. Um, because I guess I expected rivers of gold to flood. I expected doors to open. So it was quite a big shock to me because I'd gone from, GM level at the biggest gold mining company in the Southern Hemisphere, speaking at conferences, flying all around the world, doing these really amazing exotic things, and starting my own thing. Like no one knew me from a bar of soap. And I was complaining about this, whinging about this to a friend of mine. And he said to me, look, you've made a living telling other people to change, telling organizations to change. You actually need to take a bit of your own medicine. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the only thing standing in the way between where you are today and where you want to be is obscurity. What's going to make you stand out from the dozens, hundreds, thousands of other change professionals out there? And he was the one that encouraged me to take my personal brand seriously. So there's an old school quote, I think it's by Jeff Bezos, that says something like, your personal brand is what people say about you before you walk into the room. I think that's the old school way of thinking what a personal brand is. Who cares what people say about you before you walk into the room? Like, I don't give a shit about these keyboard warriors on the other side of the world. What I care about is the hearts and minds stuff. What is that perception that I'm trying to build in the hearts and minds of my key stakeholders? So that's what a personal brand is to me. And how I started was I asked people. So I was a little bit unsure. This is my first business. I really didn't understand what made me stand out from the crowd. I guess I was seeking validation. And so I sent out a change survey. Ta-da! I sent out a survey to about 100 people, and I said, describe me in 3 words. What do you think I do head and shoulders above everyone else? What makes me unique or rare? And so those initial results form the basis of my personal brand. So what I thought was just an everyday skill, it was completely game changing to other people. So it was a very enlightening exercise. So I started with that. What is my point of difference? After you know your point of difference, just like, the word personal is a dead giveaway. You need to show some personality. You mentioned that look glamorous flying all around the world. That's exactly right. I've always been like this. I don't apologize it. Too glam to give a damn. So you need to let some of your personality shine through your personal brand. It's not just about what you do for a living. It's about why you do it and what you do it and who you do it with. So I always infuse that into whatever content and thought leadership that I create. And I guess the third important note to highlight is that the people with the best personal brands, it's when they are completely congruent. Like, what you see online is exactly what you get offline. And they've got a trademark. The trademark could be a slogan. The trademark could be a color. The trademark could be the way they speak, And so when I think of really powerful personal brands, I think of Gary Vaynerchuk. I think of Brene Brown. I think of Elon Musk, love him or dislike him. So those people are completely congruent. And I think if you want a solid personal brand, you need to do the same as well. And last but not least, it doesn't come overnight. My brand is strong because I've been building it, because I've been feeding it for the past 3 odd years. And how you feed it is everything comes back to you. So it's not just the things you write, it's the people you partner with, it's the associations you support, it's how you handle yourself in a difficult situation. So all of these things influence and are a part of your personal brand.
Thanks very much for that. It seems quite brave that you surveyed those people around you asking about those 3 attributes. Is that something that you would recommend to change managers who are either working in-house or working as contractors?
100%. And try to get a cross-section of people. So I didn't just send it to 100 of my besties. I sent it to people that didn't know me very well because I was interested in how I was being perceived in the world. I sent it to people that know me on a very deep personal level and people that have only known me in the office. So I think if, just like when you do a change impact assessment, the more voices and perspectives you have in the room, the more well-rounded a picture you have of the impact. The same goes for a personal brand.
Mm. So what were the questions? It was what three words would you use to describe me? And that was the only question you sent out?
No, and then I asked, what do I do head and shoulders better than anyone you've ever met? Like, just knock it out of the park. And what about me do you think is unique or rare?
Fantastic. I love it. You're allowing those people around you who've seen what you do to really help you to understand yourself, the things that you might have been unconsciously aware of or just not consciously aware of. I'm interested as a little bit of an introvert or an extroverted introvert. I'm wondering, and of course I realize that whole paradigm is questionable. But I'm wondering, for those of us that might be less willing to or less likely to sort of put ourselves out there in a big way, do you have any advice for those of us who prefer to sort of be a little bit less visible?
I just think you're not doing yourself any favors by remaining invisible. Life's too short to play a small game. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Like someone corrects your spelling or your grammar. I mean, who cares? Like some people have done that to me before. I just don't care, you know? I think the risk and the impacts of being invisible, the pain of that is greater than the pain that you may have of someone putting a negative comment on one of your posts. And I'm not saying you have to go all out singing and dancing in a video. Just start small. Start by leaving really articulate comments on someone's post that you really admire. You know, you don't have to go plunge into the deep end. And I did plunge into the deep end, by the way. I started doing videos. That's how I grew my following really fast, really big on LinkedIn, because back then no one really was doing any videos, and especially about change management. And also, we were all in lockdown, so people were very bored. Everybody was at home, everybody was online, so there were a lot of eyeballs. So I think do what feels comfortable to you, but just know on the other side of that discomfort is your growth. So always like try to level up. You know, maybe month one you just do comments, then month two you start doing polls, then month three you start doing articles. So just ease your way up. It's just like when we first learned how to ride a bike, right? We didn't go downhill on two wheels. We had our training wheels on. We did it bit by bit. We practiced to get our balance. Same goes for a personal brand. Anything you do the first time will be crap. So don't beat yourself up over it. You want to get better, keep doing it and doing it more often.
So it sounds like LinkedIn really is the sort of primary place that we build our professional branding. I guess stepping away from LinkedIn or that kind of social media, within an organization, let's say we're working in house, what do you think are the biggest ways that change managers can build their influence and also, I guess, their credibility from senior leadership in particular?
Definitely find out what are the highly trafficked and talked about platforms within the business. So, for example, at Worley, I made a really big name for myself by blogging on their intranet portal. It was called the One Page, and anybody could submit blogs to the communications team, and the good ones were highlighted. So by blogging, I had C-levels from all around the world reaching out to me, asking for a virtual coffee. So find out what those platforms are in your organization and use them. It's a lot harder if the organization is conservative and doesn't have that. But that's where you can get a little bit creative. Why? What can you start your own newsletter? You know, then you are actually the editor. You are actually the talent, not just simply writing something for another publication. Number three would be events. So most organizations have town halls, they have quarterlies, etc. How can you get involved? How can you start becoming more visible in that platform? Because the audience for that is literally everybody, right? Right from the CEO right down to the shop floor.
Fascinating. Thank you very much for that. You've just recently released a book, The Future Fit Organization, and I know that that's been really popular on Amazon. I'd love you to just share a little bit about that book and what can you tell us about the book or what is a future fit organization?
The reason why I said future fit and not future proof, because I really think if you think you can future proof your organization, then you're either delusional or very, very arrogant. You know, We've seen COVID just happen a few years ago. Even countries that had gone through the very similar pandemic style diseases, such as the bird flu or SARS in Hong Kong, even they were caught blindsided. So to think that we can predict the future and make certain strategies in place to hedge against that is very unlikely. So some things you really won't see coming. And because of that, you need to build your future fitness muscles. And when I say future fitness muscles, I mean leadership that is collaborative and co-creative. I mean building change management capability. I mean investing in your culture, because that is what's going to reap you dividends when times are tough. What are the systems, the structures, the skills that you need for your organization to be resilient, to be agile, to be adaptable in times of constant disruption and uncertainty? So that's what I mean by future fitness. So it lays out the blueprint of how leaders can build future fit organizations, right? I also like to use the term people stack. Everybody talks about the tech stack. Have you got this? Have you got that? ChatGPT, whatever, Salesforce. But what about the people stack, right? There's no point investing so much in the tech stack if you don't have the people to use it effectively, if you don't have the people to drive home the ROI, if you don't have the people to increase that performance. So I talk about that as well in the book.
Fantastic. Now, this is a question that is a little bit off script, but I'm super curious because you mentioned you moved into the world of change. You undertook a number of change certifications like ProSci and COTA and PCI. I'm really curious about your view on the role of change methodology certifications. Obviously, we have our own views at Change Plan on their importance and their use. I'd love to hear your perspective on the importance of those kinds of certifications.
I think if you've never done change and you have no other educational qualifications, they're very useful as a starting point, not an ending point. If you end there, then you're in deep trouble because they're a bit basic. They're easily understood for everybody to apply. I think they're a great starting ground for further study and further research. So I still reference some good old ProSci and PCI stuff, but I don't rely on it. I have quite an extensive toolkit that I've built, over 10 years of frameworks, models, step-by-step process flows, etc. And they come from published work and my own IP that I've created.
Friska, what are your views on top-down versus bottom-up change?
I think expecting bottom-up change to take hold, to be sustained, somehow get magically embedded in the organization is a pipe dream. It sounds really popular and new agey, but it doesn't work in reality. Any change needs to be supported, endorsed, sponsored at the top. It doesn't have to start at the top, but it definitely needs their support. So without that, any grassroots change initiatives are going to flounder and they're just not going to last.
Friska, I understand you're writing a second book already. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, my second baby, I just submitted the manuscript 3 days ago. So my first book was about future fit organizations. And I was thinking about the experiences that I've had where change hasn't gone well, it's imploded. And the number one reason is due to a clash of cultures, either a clash of professional cultures, ethnic cultures, maybe subcultures. And I thought there's something in that. I wanted to double down on it. And with Asia emerging as the next superpower, my second book is about transformation of large organizations in Asia. How to do it, what are the common mistakes, who's done it well, who's blown up in a blaze of glory, and what you can learn from it if you are leading a transformation of that sort of size in that region. So it's going to be out in August this year.
Fabulous. Well, we'll be watching out for that one. Thanks so much for joining us today. Real pleasure to be with you, and you're a great friend and ally of Change Plan, so we really appreciate you. Where can people find out a little bit more about you and your work and your book?
So I'm most active on LinkedIn. As you'd know, it's linkedin.com/in/Friska. My website is Fresh by Friska, and my Instagram handle is the same.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us at Change Plan today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.